The alarm woke from his sleep. He jumped from his bunk and ran to the communications room of the Wandering Star. The ship was quiet. Most of the crew was still sleeping. It was 3 in the morning ship time. Sat at his station and checked the screens. A message was coming through on the emergency channel. This was strange. The emergency channel was only used for disasters, pirates, ship failures, distress calls. He put on his headphones and listened. The voice was not human. It was high and musical, like wind chimes in a storm. The translator worked slowly, turning the alien words into English. What heard made his blood run cold. This is Axis Prime. Our sun is dying. We have 90 days before our world burns. We are the 4,200,000,000 souls. We need help. We need ships. Please, anyone. We are calling the Galactic Council. We are calling anyone who can hear us. Please help us evacuate our world. Sat very still. He had heard of they were old, very old. Their civilization had existed for thousands of years before humans even discovered fire. They were respected members of the Galactic Council. They had technology humans could only dream about. And they were dying. He recorded the message and went to wake Captain. Was in her quarters, reading reports on her data pad. She did not sleep much these days. She looked up when knocked. Captain, you need to hear this. Listened to the recording 3 times. Her face showed nothing, but knew her well enough to see the tension in her shoulders. How long ago was this sent? 2 hours. It's being broadcast on all Galactic Council frequencies. Have there been any responses? Checked his system. Yes, the Empire sent a message. They say it's impossible to move that many people. They say they're sorry, but they cannot help. Anyone else? The Confederation. They cite an old border dispute with they say they will not send ships. Paused. Captain, more messages are coming in. The Morphic Collective says they do not have the resources. The Silicon Assembly says their ships are too slow. They're all saying no, said quietly. Yes, Captain. They sat in silence for a moment, then stood up. Wake the crew. Full meeting in the mess hall in 10 minutes. The crew of the Wandering Star was small, only 23 people. They were hauling mining equipment to a colony on the edge of human space. It was boring work, but it paid well. The chief engineer arrived first. He was a big man with hands and a practical mind. He did not like surprises. What's going on? He asked. Wait for the others, said. When everyone was there, played the message. The crew listened. Some looked confused, some looked sad, all looked uncomfortable. The Galactic Council is refusing to help, said. All 47 member species have either said no or stayed silent. 4 billion people, someone whispered. We're 3 weeks away from Axis Prime, said. If we dump our cargo and push the engines, we could be there in 15 days. Laughed, but there was no humor in it. We can carry maybe 50,000 people if we pack them in like cargo. What good would that do? It's a drop in the ocean. It's 50,000 people who won't burn, said. The crew looked at each other. They all knew what this meant. If they dumped their cargo, they would lose their payment. The company would be angry. Some of them might lose their jobs. But they also knew what it meant to do nothing. I'm going, said. This ship is going to Axis Prime. Anyone who wants to leave can take a shuttle to the nearest station. I won't force anyone to come. Nobody moved. Well then, said, let's get to work. The next 3 days were busy. They ejected the mining equipment into space. They stripped down the cargo bays and installed temporary life support systems. They calculated how much food and water they would need. They prepared for guests. Spent his time monitoring the Galactic Council channels. More species sent their regrets. Some said it was too dangerous. Some said it would cost too much. Some just stayed silent. Then he picked up something new, a transmission from Earth. The Secretary General of the United Earth Government was speaking. His name was, and his voice was tired but firm. "We have heard this call for help. We have seen the Galactic Council's response. Or rather, we have seen their lack of response. Today, the United Earth government voted to send every available ship to assist in the evacuation of Axis Prime. We know this will be difficult. We know the cost will be high. But we also know that no civilization, no matter how young or old, rich or poor, should face extinction alone. The human fleet is coming. Hold on." Played the message for the crew. They gathered around the speaker, listening to words from home. "He's mad," said. "Every ship, that's our entire merchant fleet, our defense fleet, everything." "Yes," said, "it is. We'll be vulnerable. Pirates could attack our colonies. We'll lose trade routes. It could set us back years." "I know. But he's doing it anyway." "Yes." Shook his head and smiled. "Humans," he said, "we're all completely insane." 2 days later, another message came through. This one was different. It was not a plea for help. It was a goodbye. The planetary elder of the spoke in her musical voice. She thanked the Galactic Council for their consideration. She understood their reasons. She forgave them. She asked only that someone, somewhere, would remember the people. Remember their art, their music, their 1,000 generations of culture and life. Then she invited any ships in range to record what happened next. Children appeared on the screen. Hundreds of children standing in what looked like a school. They were singing. Did not understand the words, but he understood the emotion. It was an anthem, a song of pride and love and sadness. When it ended, the transmission cut off. Sat at his station with tears on his face. Around him, the rest of the crew was silent. Some were crying. Some just stared at the dark screen. "Captain," said, his voice was rough, "we're still 12 days away." "Then we'd better hurry," said. The wandering star pushed its engines harder than they were designed to go. In the engine room worked miracles, coaxing more speed from the old machinery. On the bridge plotted the fastest possible course. And in the communications room monitored the channels. He watched as ship after ship, all flying human flags, changed course toward Axis Prime. Hundreds of them. Military ships, merchant ships, colony transports, private vessels. They were all going. Every single one of them was going. The Galactic Council watched in silence. The other species could not understand. Why would humans do this? They were strangers to them. The cost was enormous. It made no logical sense. But humans did not always operate on logic. They operated on something else, something the Galactic Council had forgotten. They operated on hope. The news spread across human space faster than any ship could travel. Every news station, every social media feed, every public screen showed the same images. The children singing, their sun turning red and angry in the sky, the Galactic Council's silence. And then Secretary General's speech. Sora watched it for the 10th time from her apartment on Mars. She was a journalist, known for asking difficult questions and never accepting easy answers. But this time, she had no questions. She knew exactly what she needed to do. She started recording. "This is Sora reporting from Mars City. You've all seen the news. They are dying and the galaxy is letting it happen, but not us, not humanity. Our government has pledged every available ship, but that's not enough. We need more. We need volunteers. We need supplies. We need everyone who can help to step forward. I'm setting up a donation fund. Every credit helps. Every resource matters. Don't let anyone tell you this is impossible. We're humans. We make the impossible happen." The video went viral within hours. The donation fund she created crashed from too many people trying to give money at once. Within 2 days, she had raised enough to hire 12 merchant ships. But money was not the only thing people were giving. Captain read Sora's message on his ship, a small merchant vessel called the Morning Dawn. He was hauling medical supplies from Earth to a colony near Jupiter. It was a routine job, safe, profitable. He looked at his cargo manifest. Then he looked at the course to Axis Prime. Then he made a decision that would change his life. He redirected his ship. His crew of 8 met him in the cargo bay. They already knew what he was going to say. "I know this is crazy," said. "I know we'll lose money. The company will probably fire us. But I can't just ignore this. If you want to leave, I'll drop you at the next station. No hard feelings." His pilot, a woman named Bora, stepped forward. "Captain, we're with you." The others nodded. "Then let's go save some lives," said. Stories like were happening all across human space. Ship captains mortgaged their vessels. Mining companies donated their entire fleets. Colony transports changed course. Even the generation ships, those massive, slow vessels that carried thousands of colonists between distant stars, turned toward Axis Prime. On Earth, Admiral stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Fleet. Around her, holographic displays showed the movement of ships. So many ships. "Admiral, we're getting reports from every sector," her aide said. "Military volunteers are at 300% of expectations. Civilian ships are requesting permission to join the rescue fleet." "Grant all requests," said. "If they can fly and they want to help, they're going." "Ma'am, this will leave our colonies vulnerable. If pirates attack, if there's a conflict." "Then we'll deal with it," said. "Right now, 4 billion people are about to die. That's the only priority." She pulled up the latest calculations. The numbers were brutal. Even with every human ship, even if everything went perfectly, they would still lose millions of, maybe billions. But they had to try. "How long until the first ships arrive at Axis Prime?" she asked. "The fastest vessels will arrive in 9 days. The main fleet in 12 to 15 days. Tell them to push harder." Across human space, families gathered around dinner tables and made decisions. Parents explained to their children why their colony's supply ship was leaving, why food would be rationed for the next few months, why this mattered. Most children understood. Some even wanted to go help. On a farming colony near Alpha, a school organized a fundraiser. Children sold crafts and baked goods. They raised enough money to buy supplies for 1 rescue ship. It was not much, but it was something. The teacher, a young woman named, recorded a message to send to the children spoke into the camera, one by one. "We're thinking of you. We're sending help. You're not alone." The message was broadcast on the same channel they had used for their distress call, picked it up on the wandering star, and forwarded it to Axis Prime. He did not know if anyone there would see it, but he hoped they would. Secretary General did not sleep much during those days. He attended meetings with colony governors who were worried about security, with military commanders who warned about the risks, with economists who calculated the cost. The numbers were staggering. This rescue operation would cost humanity 10 years of progress, maybe more. Colonies would suffer, trade would slow, they would be vulnerable to enemies. But every time someone showed him the cost, he thought about the children singing. "We're doing this," he said. "Find a way to make it work." His chief of staff, a man named, pulled him aside after one particularly difficult meeting. "Sir, the opposition party is calling for a vote of no confidence. They say you're bankrupting humanity for strangers." "Let them vote," said. "Some of our own party members are wavering." "Then let them waver. This isn't about politics. This is about what kind of species we want to be." Was quiet for a moment, then he smiled. "I'll tell them you said that." The Galactic Council met in emergency session. The representatives of 47 species gathered in their grand chamber to discuss the human response. Many were confused, some were suspicious, a few were impressed. The representative, a tall being with silver skin, spoke first. "The humans are mobilizing their entire fleet for a rescue operation that will likely fail. This is illogical. What do they hope to gain?" "Perhaps they seek favor with the," suggested the ambassador. "What favor can the dead give?" replied another. "Then perhaps it's a political move, a way to make the council look bad." "Or perhaps," said a quiet voice from the back, "they simply care." The room fell silent. The speaker was the Morphic Collective's representative, a being of pure thought given form by a mechanical body. "We have forgotten something," the Morphic Collective said. "We have forgotten what it means to act without calculation, without benefit. The humans are young, yes, weak, yes, but they remember something we lost long ago. They remember compassion." "Compassion does not save civilizations," the representative said. "No," the Morphic Collective agreed, "but it might save souls." On Axis Prime, they watched the sky. Their scientists tracked the sun's expansion. 78 days until the surface became uninhabitable. 78 days until their world ended. But they also tracked something else. A fleet approaching from the direction of human space. Hundreds of ships, more joining every day. The planetary elder called an emergency meeting of her government. "The humans are coming," she said, "all of them." Her advisors looked at the data. It was impossible to believe. "They're sending everything they have," one said. "But why?" another asked. "We've barely interacted with them. They joined the council only 30 years ago. We're strangers to them." "I don't know," the elder said, "but we need to prepare. If they're coming to save us, we need to be ready to be saved." Orders went out across Axis Prime. Citizens began organizing. Priority groups were established. The young first, then the old, then everyone else. Supplies were gathered. Records were backed up. Culture was preserved. And every day, they watched the human fleet grow larger. In the communications center, a young named monitored the human transmissions. He was learning their language, listening to their messages. What he heard amazed him. They were not coming for profit, not for political gain, not for territory or technology. They were coming because they believed no one should die alone. Sent a message back, one of the first direct communications between and human. "Thank you," he wrote in careful English. "We will remember this, always." On the wandering star received the message. He read it 3 times, then put his head in his hands and cried. They were 7 days away from Axis Prime now. 7 days until they would attempt the impossible. The wandering star dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Axis Prime system. What saw on his sensors made him stop breathing for a moment. The star was huge. Red and angry, it filled the sky like a burning wound. It should not have looked like this. The charts said it was supposed to be yellow, stable, normal. Instead, it looked ready to tear itself apart. "Captain," said quietly, "you need to see this." Came to look at his screens. The numbers told a terrible story. The star's expansion was accelerating. The had said 90 days, but the readings showed something different. 23 days, said, maybe less. Should we tell them? They probably already know. More ships were arriving every minute. The space around Axis Prime was filling with human vessels, large military carriers, small merchant ships, everything in between. They came from 100 different colonies, but they all flew the same flag. Admiral's command ship, the Earth's Promise, appeared next to them. It was enormous, 10 times the size of the wandering star, but even it looked small next to the dying sun. "All ships, this is Admiral. We're beginning operations immediately. I'm transmitting evacuation protocols now. Stay calm, work together, and remember why we're here. Let's bring them home." The protocols appeared on screen. They were simple but brutal. Every ship would take as many as physically possible. Comfort did not matter. Safety margins did not matter. The only thing that mattered was capacity. "We're rated for 200 passengers," said, reading the protocols. "They want us to take 50,000. "Then we take 50,000, said. "Start stripping the ship. Anything we don't need to fly, we get rid of it. Turn the cargo bays into living space." Captain, at those numbers, we'll barely have room to move. Life support will be pushed to the limit. I know, do it anyway. On the surface of Axis Prime, they were organizing. The temperature had climbed to dangerous levels. The oceans were steaming. Plants were dying. Everyone who could had moved underground into vast shelters built over the centuries. A young human pilot named brought her shuttle down to the largest shelter. It was her first run. She had volunteered for this, left her post on a colony ship to come here. Now she understood why. The shelter entrance opened and she saw them. Thousands of waiting. They were tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. They looked at her shuttle with hope and fear. Shuttle was designed for 50 passengers. She was supposed to take 200. She keyed her radio. Loading now. We'll be back up in 20 minutes. The filed in calm and orderly despite their fear. They pressed together, standing shoulder to shoulder. Counted. 100, 150, 200. They kept coming. That's capacity, her co-pilot said. Keep loading, said. 250, 300. The shuttle can't. It'll hold, keep loading. Finally, the last was aboard. 347 beings packed into a space meant for 50, sealed the doors and said a silent prayer. The shuttle groaned as it lifted off. The engines screamed. The heat shields glowed red as they climbed through the thick, burning atmosphere, but they made it. 347 souls delivered to the Earth's promise. Shuttle 7 returning for another load, said into her radio. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. She made 12 runs that first day, 4,000 people. Then she slept for 3 hours and started again. A medical officer set up a clinic in one of the converted cargo bays. The who arrived were suffering from heat exhaustion, dehydration, and shock. Some were injured. All were terrified. He had brought medical supplies, but not enough. Never enough. He was learning physiology as he went, making educated guesses about treatments. Sometimes he guessed right. Sometimes he did not. A mother brought her child to him. The child was burning with fever. Her shimmering skin turned dull and gray. Please, the mother said in broken English, please save her. Looked at his supplies. He had human fever medication, but he did not know if it would work on. It might help. It might do nothing. It might kill her. I'm going to try something, he said, but I need you to trust me. The mother nodded. Gave the child a quarter of the normal human dose. Then he waited. 5 minutes. 10. The child's temperature began to drop. Slowly, the gray color faded from her skin. She'll be okay, said. He was not sure if he was lying or not. The mother grabbed his hands. Thank you, she said. Thank you. Moved on to the next patient, and the next, and the next. There was no time to rest. On the bridge of the Earth's promise, a logistics coordinator named stared at her screens. She was trying to solve an impossible math problem. 4,200,863 human ships currently in system, with more arriving every hour. 23 days, but that was optimistic. She calculated and recalculated. No matter how she arranged the numbers, they did not work. We need more ships, she told Admiral. How many more? All of them and then some. We have all of them. Then we need the ships to hold more. Looked at the readouts. Every vessel was already packed beyond safe capacity. How much more? Double, triple if possible. People will die. People will die if we don't try. Was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Update the protocols, maximum capacity. I don't care what the safety ratings say. The new protocols went out. Ships that were taking 10,000 passengers were now expected to take 20,000, 30,000, as many as physically possible. On the Wandering Star, looked at the new numbers and laughed. It was not a happy sound. They want us to take 100,000, he said. Captain, the ship will tear itself apart. Will we make it to the nearest human colony? Maybe, if everything goes perfectly, if nothing breaks. Then we do it. Shook his head, but he was already working on the modifications. Turn off artificial gravity in all sections except the bridge and engine room. Reduce oxygen levels to the minimum. Convert water storage to passenger space. Seal off the engine room and work in suits. The wandering star became a flying refugee camp, packed into every available space. They sat on the floors. They stood in corridors. They pressed together in the cargo bays. Walked through the ship and saw their faces. Fear, gratitude, hope. They looked at him like he was a hero, but he did not feel like a hero. He felt like someone doing what anyone should do. He found an elder sitting in a corridor, holding a small box. "What's in there?" asked. The elder opened it. Inside were seeds, hundreds of tiny seeds. "Our world," the elder said. "Plants that grew on Axis Prime. I am taking them so we can remember." Looked at the seeds. They were so small, so fragile, but they represented something enormous. Life, memory, hope. "We'll keep them safe," promised. The evacuation continued around the clock. Shuttle pilots flew until they could barely see straight. Medical officers worked until they collapsed. Engineers performed miracles to keep ships flying. And slowly, painfully, the numbers began to change. 4 billion evacuated, then 4,100,000,000, then 4,200,000,000. But the sun was not waiting. It grew larger, hotter, more unstable. On day 12, the first human ship failed. The Morning Grace, a colony transport, suffered engine failure from being pushed too hard. Captain and his crew had loaded 60,000, triple the ship's capacity. "We're dead in space," transmitted. "Engines are gone. Life support is failing." "How long do you have?" asked. 6 hours, maybe 8. Other ships moved to help. They could not repair the Morning Grace, but they could transfer passengers. Shuttles flew back and forth, moving to other vessels. It took 4 hours to evacuate everyone. "Last passenger transferred," reported. "We're abandoning ship." "Get out of there, Captain." And his crew made it to a rescue shuttle with minutes to spare. The Morning Grace drifted in space, empty and dying. But 60,000 were safe. "That's one ship down," reported. "We still have 862 operational." "How many people left on the surface?" asked. Checked her numbers. 1,300,000,000. "In how much time?" 11 days, maybe less. Looked at the red star on her screen. It seemed to pulse with anger. "Then we work faster," she said. Could not sleep. He stood in the engine room of the wandering star, staring at the readouts. The ship was holding, but barely. Every system was pushed to the breaking point. He looked at the screens showing the evacuation progress. They had moved 3 billion off Axis Prime. 3 billion lives saved. But 1 billion remained and time was running out. The problem was simple and terrible. They had ships, but not enough capacity. Even packed to dangerous levels, they could not fit everyone. Looked out the window at the space stations. There were 5 of them, huge structures orbiting Axis Prime. Each one had been built over centuries. They were beautiful, art and engineering combined. And they were empty now. Everyone had been evacuated to the surface shelters to make room on the stations for the dying. An idea formed in his mind, a crazy idea, an impossible idea. But maybe that was exactly what they needed. He went to find Captain. "We move the stations," he said. Looked at him like he had lost his mind. "What?" "The stations. They're each designed to hold 10 million people. That's 50 million total capacity just sitting there empty. We move them, tow them out of the system." "Those stations are massive. They're not designed to move. The structural stress alone." "We'll probably tear them apart, yes, but maybe not. And if it works, we save 50 million people we otherwise can't save." Thought about it. She pulled up data on her pad, running calculations. We would need dozens of ships working together. Perfect coordination. If even one ship gets the angle wrong, the whole station could break up. I know. And there's no guarantee it would work. I know that too. Looked at him for a long moment, then she smiled. Let's do it. Admiral listened to his proposal. At first she thought it was impossible. Then she looked at the numbers, the alternatives, the time they had left. How many ships would we need? She asked. For the first station, 50 ships to start. We learn as we go. The next ones might need more or fewer. And if it fails? Then we lose 50 ships and accomplish nothing. But if it works, we save 50 million people, made her decision. I'll send you the ships. Make it work, Captain. The operation began with the smallest station, a structure only 5 kilometers across. 50 human ships attached towing cables to strategic points on the structure, coordinated from the communications room, making sure every ship was in the exact right position. All ships, this is Wandering Star Control. On my mark, begin applying thrust at 2%. Slowly, very slowly, mark. 50 ships fired their engines at the same time. The station groaned. Metal creaked, but it began to move. Increase to 5%, said. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking. The station moved faster. Watched the structural readings. The stress was enormous. Any second it could tear itself apart. 10%, said. The station shuddered but held. It was free of orbit now, being towed through space by 50 ships working as one. We did it, breathed. But there was no time to celebrate. 4 more stations waited. The second station was larger. They used 70 ships. The third needed 90. Each time they learned something new, how to distribute the stress, where to attach the cables, how to coordinate the thrust. By the fourth station, they were experts. Watch from her shuttle as the massive structures moved through space like floating cities. It was the most beautiful and terrifying thing she had ever seen. Shuttle crews knew orders, came the call. Load the stations, bring the up from the surface. The stations could hold 10 million each. That meant tens of thousands of shuttle runs, but they had pilots, they had time, barely. Landed on Axis Prime for her 63rd run. The heat was unbearable now. Her shuttle's external temperature gauge read 230 degrees. The ground outside was baking. The who boarded her shuttle looked exhausted. They had been waiting underground for days, but they moved quickly, efficiently. They knew every second counted. Full capacity, pilot, the loading coordinator said. Looked at her passenger count, 412. Her shuttle should hold 50. Roger, lifting off. The shuttle fought against the heat and gravity, felt the engines straining. Her co-pilot watched the temperature gauges climb. We're going to burn up, he said. We're not, said. She did not know if that was true. The shuttle made it to orbit, barely. The heat shields were damaged. The engines were making sounds they should not make. Shuttle 7 to Earth's promise. I need repairs. Negative, Shuttle 7. We need you back down in 20 minutes. My ship is falling apart. Then make it last a few more hours, please. Looked at her co-pilot. He looked back. They both knew what they had to do. Roger, going back down. They made 6 more runs before the shuttle finally gave out. The engines died on the last climb to orbit. They drifted for 3 terrifying minutes before a rescue ship reached them. Transferred her passengers and herself to the rescue ship. As she watched her shuttle float away, dead in space, she felt no regret. That shuttle had saved over 3,000 lives. It had died doing its job. Had stopped counting patients. He just moved from one to the next. Treat, stabilize, move on. His medical supplies were long gone. He was using medicine now, learning their medical technology through desperate necessity. A doctor named worked beside him. She taught him about physiology. He taught her about human medicine. Together, they saved lives neither could have saved alone. "You should rest," said. "You've been working for 30 hours. So have you. We can go longer without sleep. I'm human, we're stubborn." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I'm beginning to understand that." A new wave of patients arrived. More heat exhaustion, more dehydration, and got back to work. On the bridge of the Earth's Promise updated her calculations. The stations had changed everything. They were going to make it, maybe. Current count, 3,900,000,000 evacuated. 300 million remaining on surface. Time remaining, asked. The star is becoming unstable. 4 days, maybe 5. Can we do it? Ran the numbers again. If nothing else goes wrong, if all ships hold together, if the shuttles keep flying. She paused. Yes, we can do it. But things did go wrong. On day 19, a solar flare erupted from the dying star. It was enormous, a tongue of plasma reaching out into space. 3 human ships were caught in the radiation. Their shields failed. Their systems went dark. Emergency rescues launched immediately. Other ships moved in, taking the crews and passengers off the dying vessels. But it took time, precious time they did not have. 3 more ships lost, reported. All crew and passengers evacuated safely. How does that affect our timeline? We're down to the wire if we lose any more ships. She did not need to finish the sentence. Captain, now serving on another vessel after losing the morning grace, volunteered for the most dangerous job, flying close to Axis Prime's surface to pick up the last evacuees. The heat there was lethal. Most shuttles could not survive it. But his new ship, the Second Chance, had military-grade heat shields. "I'm going down," he told his crew. "Anyone who wants to stay can stay." They all went with him. The surface of Axis Prime looked like hell. The sky was red. The ground was cracking. What had once been oceans were now empty basins filled with steam. Landed at the last shelter. The entrance was barely holding. He could see the metal glowing from the heat. The last emerged, 5,000 of them, the very last people on the planet. "Load them up," shouted. His ship was designed for 1,000 passengers. He took all 5,000. The Second Chance lifted off with every alarm screaming. The engines were overheating. The hull was buckling from the weight, but it climbed. Meter by meter, it fought its way through the burning atmosphere. Watched his instruments die one by one. Navigation, gone. Communications, gone. Life support, failing. But they reached orbit. "This is Second Chance," transmitted on emergency power. "Last evacuation complete. Axis Prime is empty." All across the human fleet, people stopped what they were doing. They looked at their screens. They listened to words. 4,200,000,000, all evacuated. All saved. In the cargo bay of the wandering star stood among the refugees. They had heard transmission. They knew what it meant. They were the last. No one else was coming. Everyone had made it. One of them began to sing. It was the same song the children had sung in that first broadcast, the anthem. Others joined in. Soon, 100,000 voices filled the ship with their music. Listened and cried. They had done it. Against all odds, against all logic, they had done it. The human fleet began its long journey home, carrying 4 billion souls. 6 months after the evacuation, Secretary-General stood before the Galactic Council. The chamber was full. Every species had sent representatives. They all wanted to hear what the humans would say. Looked out at them. These were the species that had said no, that had turned away, that had let 4 billion people face death alone. He felt no anger, only sadness. "I am here to give you a report," he began. "The evacuation is complete. 4,200,000,000 souls were saved. They are now living across human space, on our colonies, on our stations, in our cities." He showed images on the screens behind him. Children attending school with human children, workers helping to build new structures, families eating dinner with human families. The cost to humanity was significant, continued. We lost 23 ships. 17 humans died during the operation. Our economy has been set back a decade. Our colonies face shortages. Our defenses are weakened. The council representatives shifted in their seats. Some looked uncomfortable. But we would do it again, said, without hesitation, because some things matter more than economics, more than politics, more than safety. He paused and looked directly at the representative. The called for help. You all heard them. You all had the resources to respond. You chose not to. I'm not here to judge that choice. I'm here to tell you what we learned from ours. We learned that capacity is not fixed. That impossible just means difficult. That when every voice says no, one voice saying yes can change everything. We learned that the strength of a civilization is not measured by its technology or its military or its wealth. It is measured by what it does when no one is watching, when there is no reward, when helping costs everything. The chamber was silent. I stepped forward. Her name was Elder, the leader of the people. She stood beside. My people were ready to die, she said. Her voice carried through the chamber. We had accepted our fate. We had sung our last songs. We had said goodbye to our world. Then the humans came, not because we were allies, not because they owed us, not because it benefited them. They came because it was right. She turned to face the council. For 10,000 years we were part of this council. We paid our dues. We followed the rules. We helped when it was convenient. But when we needed help, when we truly needed it, you all turned away. The humans are young. Their technology is primitive. Their ships are old. Their colonies are poor. By every measure this council uses, they are the weakest among you. Yet they did what none of you would do. Elder's words hung in the air like an accusation. I stand here today to announce that the people are withdrawing from the Galactic Council. We are forming a permanent alliance with humanity, because we have learned that advancement is not about age or technology. It is about character. And humanity has shown more character than all of you combined. The council erupted in noise. Representatives shouted. Some protested. Some demanded explanations, but Elder simply bowed to and left the chamber. Followed her out. Behind them, the council descended into chaos. On the wandering star, Captain stood on the bridge and looked at her ship. It was damaged. The hull had patches welded over patches. The engines made sounds they should not make. It would take a year to properly repair it. But it was still flying. Captain, we're getting a transmission from Earth, said. They want to give us commendations, medals. Tell them no thank you, said. Captain, we don't need medals. We did what anyone should do. Smiled, I'll tell them you said that. Came onto the bridge, wiping grease from his hands. Engines are holding, barely. We should make it to the next station. How long until proper repairs? If we have the parts and the money, 8 months. If we don't, he shrugged, could be years. We'll make it work, said. She looked out at space. Somewhere out there were 4 billion living, breathing, alive. That was all the reward she needed. Sat in a hospital on Mars, recovering from radiation exposure. Her final shuttle runs had damaged her more than she had admitted. The doctors said she would be fine, but she needed rest. A mother came to visit her, the same mother whose child had saved. She brought her daughter, now healthy and smiling. I wanted to thank you, the mother said. You saved us, you and all the other humans. I just flew a shuttle, said. You did more than that. You showed us that kindness still exists, that hope is real. The little girl stepped forward. She held out a drawing. It showed a shuttle flying through fire with a human pilot inside. That's you, the girl said in careful English. You're a hero. Took the drawing. She looked at it for a long time. "I'm not a hero," she finally said. "I'm just a pilot who did her job." "Then I want to be a pilot too," the girl said. Smiled, "Then I'll teach you." Stayed on the station he had helped save. He was teaching doctors human medicine while learning their techniques. Together, they were creating something new, a fusion of two medical traditions. The doctor who had worked beside him became his research partner. They published papers. They saved lives. They built something that would help both species for generations. "You could go home," said one day. "Back to Earth, back to your life." "This is my life now," said. "Besides, we're not done yet. There's so much more to learn." Made that sound that was almost a laugh. "You humans, always looking forward, never satisfied. Is that a bad thing?" "No," said, "it's what saved us." Captain stood on the bridge of his new ship. After losing the morning grace and nearly dying on the second chance, he had been offered a position in the Earth Defense Fleet. He turned it down. Instead, he bought another merchant vessel, used, old, cheap. He named it Second Morning. "Why are you doing this?" his crew asked. "You could have any job in the fleet, you're a hero." "I'm not a hero," said. "I'm a merchant captain, that's what I do. I haul cargo, I take passengers, I do my job." "But you saved thousands of lives." "So did everyone else. Now let's get back to work." On Earth, Sarah continued her journalism. She told the stories of the evacuation, the pilots, the engineers, the doctors, the ordinary people who did extraordinary things. Her reports were watched across human space and beyond. Other species began to ask questions. If humans could do this, what did that say about them? "You're making us look bad," an official told her once. "Good," Sarah replied. "Maybe you'll do better next time." In the Galactic Council, things were changing. This withdrawal had shocked the member species. Some tried to dismiss it. Others began to question their own choices. The Morphic Collective proposed a new rule. If any member species faced extinction, all others must respond. The proposal failed, but the debate it started continued. Some species began to reach out to humanity, to learn from them, to understand them. Others remained distant, suspicious of these strange beings who valued compassion over profit. But none of them could ignore what had happened. Humanity had done the impossible, and in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever. Admiral stood at a memorial on Earth. It was simple, a wall with 17 names, the 17 humans who had died during the evacuation. Pilots who pushed their ships too hard, engineers who worked themselves to death, medical officers who exposed themselves to radiation to save others. Each name had a story, each story mattered. A delegation came to the memorial every month. They brought flowers, they said prayers in their musical language, they remembered. Placed her own flowers at the base. 17 lives lost to save 4 billion. The math was brutal and beautiful. "Was it worth it?" someone asked her once. Thought about the question. She thought about the children going to school, about the families building new lives, about the culture that was not lost. "Yes," she said, "it was worth it." Received a message one day. It was from the young who had first thanked humanity. He was now studying on Earth, learning human languages and culture. "I am writing a history," his message said. "A history of the rescue, of what happened. I want to make sure it is never forgotten." Wrote back, "Call it what it was, not a rescue, a promise kept." On a colony near Alpha, the school children who had fundraised for the evacuation met a group of children. They played together, learned together, became friends. One human child asked a child what it was like to lose their world. The child thought about it. "It was terrible," she said, "but it taught me something. Home is not a place, home is people, and your people gave my people a new home." "We're all people," the human child said. "Yes," the child agreed, "we are." Years passed. They built new lives in human space. Some returned to science, some to art, some to simple work. They contributed, they helped, they became part of the community. The human economy recovered, colonies grew, the ships were repaired, life went on. But something had changed. Humanity had proven something to itself and to the galaxy. They had proven that impossible just meant difficult, that one voice could make a difference, that doing the right thing, even when it cost everything, was worth it. The Galactic Council never forgot what happened, how humanity, the youngest and weakest species, had done what none of them would do. Some species learned from it, others resented it, but none could ignore it. And when the next crisis came, when another species faced disaster, the Galactic Council remembered. They remembered the humans. They remembered the lesson. They helped, not because it was profitable, not because it was easy, but because it was right. Because in the bleakest hour, when everyone else turned away, humans had answered. And in answering, they had shown the galaxy what it meant to be truly civilized. The memorial on Earth grew. More names were added over the years, not just the 17 who died, but all who served, all who helped, all who answered the call. And at the top, a simple inscription: "No one deserves to die alone in the dark." Somewhere in human space, a grandmother told her about the day the humans came, about the ships filling the sky, about being rescued from a dying world. The children listened with wide eyes. "Are the humans still like that?" one child asked. "Are they still heroes?" The grandmother smiled. "They never called themselves heroes. They just called themselves humans. And yes, they are still like that. They always will be." "Why?" "Because," the grandmother said, "that is who they are." And in the dark of space, on 1,000 ships, in 100 colonies, across 2 species now bound together, life went on. Life saved, life lived, life shared. Because when it mattered most, humanity had answered. They had always answered. And they always would.